I'd like to give you both an opportunity to share with our audience a little about yourselves and your company, how you got started and where you are today, how your company has evolved over the last 3 years, as well as new markets that have emerged because of the COVID-19. Vienna, I would like to start with you if we may.
Sure.
I see you there with us. So tell us a little bit about your company, if you will, and your size and your core competency, if you will, please.
Sure. Happy to, Jim. And first, of course, I want to thank Iredell EDC, the board, staff, all of the volunteers. We are grateful to have such a fantastic team. Obviously, it was the predecessor of Statesville Regional Development that supported us when we broke ground initially on the distillery. But we are looking forward to the ongoing support as we grow and expand and add barrel warehouses and continue to grow our team. My husband, Pete, and I founded Southern Distilling Company in 2013. We wanted to build and grow a family business right here in Statesville and set our sights really on establishing a world-class distillery right here in what before Prohibition was called the liquor capital of the world. So Statesville's got a really rich distilling history. Before we even had moonshiners, we had a rich distilling history here, and we are happy to be bringing that back. Took us 4 years from when we founded the company to get through our construction and actually open the doors to the public. That happened in April of 2017. So we just would have had a big 3-year anniversary celebration this April had coronavirus not joined us. But we will look forward to doing that when we're able to. We had 6 months of a soft opening stage where we did tours and invited people in. And once that officially came to a conclusion, we opened with the launch of our Southern Star bourbon product line. And we have continued to expand and add products to that, as well as expand our distribution. Our first year, we spent selling product in the state of North Carolina. Still look forward to continuing to saturate the state with the great spirits we're making here in Statesville. And then we began an expansion project largely led by our double shot coffee bourbon cream liqueur, which if you haven't had it, you should. It's really, really good. That launched in 2018. This year, we've had a variety of different things going on. Obviously, you'll hear more about our shift to hand sanitizer production, which began in March. And we also had an expansion and the planned expansion of our plant here. For anyone who has had an opportunity to come in for a tour early in the company, we had 4 fermentation tanks that run a single shift. We now have 10, and that expansion occurred this year through the summer. We are also planning to break ground as soon as possible on a new 20,000 square foot barrel storage warehouse here on the property. So we're looking forward to continuing to grow our core business, which really is our distilling business in making fantastic whiskeys, both for ourselves and for other brands and other distilleries across the country.
Well, you've been busy, you and your team, to say the least. Look forward to hearing more here in just a few minutes. But Todd, thank you for joining us so much this morning, and take a minute to tell us about your company and the size and what you guys have going on over there at Roush Yates, if you will, please.
Yeah, Jim, thanks for the introduction. So my name is Todd English, and I handle all the corporate communications, all the marketing, and also all the partnership programs. We have been here in Mooresville since 2007, and obviously at that time, it was mainly around our NASCAR racing engine business. So we do provide all the racing engines for Ford Performance and their particular teams. In 2013-14, we started to really diversify outside of motorsports and also have an advanced CNC manufacturing facility, about 88,000. I think I might have mentioned AS9100 certified. So here in the last few recent years, we really have been diversifying outside of motorsports into aerospace, into defense, and even into the medical markets.
Okay, great. Beautiful. Thank you. So, you know, we've all heard of pandemics, and many of us may have planned for pandemics in the past, but really envisioned we'd have to get those plans out of mothballs and try to figure out what do we do now. And all of a sudden we've got COVID-19 on us. and Vienna. So tell us a little bit about how that may have changed your company, your strategy, and the kind of things that y'all have had to do to figure out what's next.
Sure. Well, we, back in the beginning of March, when we saw what was starting to happen, even before Governor Cooper asked folks to close, we made the decision to close our tasting room. Wanted to do what we could to protect everyone out there, as well as our own team here with what we knew at the time. And then we also were learning about some regulatory changes, both with our federal liquor regulatory body, the Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, known as TTB, and with the FDA. And in the course of the last 2 weeks, in the beginning of April, they issued new regulatory guidance that allowed distilleries that manufacture ethyl alcohol, ethanol like we do, to enter the hand sanitizer manufacturing business with really a smooth path without having to encounter regulatory burdens and a lot of bureaucracy to be able to do that. We knew there was an urgent need. We couldn't find any hand sanitizer when COVID got started. We knew people really needed it, and here we had an opportunity to be able to produce it within our facility. It was a huge changeover, and I will have to say, the beginning of the third week in March, recall having a conversation with my husband, Pete, where I was saying, we don't need to get into the hand sanitizer business. That's the job of, Purell. And by that Friday, he had me convinced that this was something that was important for us to do and that pathway to be able to do it. And within about 10 days, we fully overhauled our plant and hired on an additional staffing team to help us with hand sanitizer manufacturing and bottling. And by the, middle of April, had orders for truckloads worth of material. We had great support from the North Carolina Department of Agriculture in getting the word out that North Carolina distilleries had this product available. And particularly for us, we are a very large scale plant, and we were able to supply at that truckload capacity. So that enabled us to develop partnerships with folks like Harris Teeter, Food Lion, Belk department stores, Whole Foods, and other wholesalers that were really seeing hand sanitizer when there was none available in the marketplace. So it was a huge shift, very little sleep over that period of time for anyone here, and a nice opportunity for us to offer some employment for all the folks that were not able to continue working in the service industry when our restaurants and other businesses started closing.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Todd, tell us how things have changed for you since late March as opposed to say February 1st. What change has brought about there at Roush Yates?
Yeah, if you look at our particular business model, we typically start racing in February. So we started racing in February and all the way to the end of March. And I think at that time, COVID, we were at Atlanta, and NASCAR made the right decision to really shut the sport down. And obviously that was a very difficult decision, but the right decision for us. We had 120 individuals that really work on our particular NASCAR program. And once you shut a facility down, what do you do with these particular employees? And fortunately, we had started the diversification. We had started working on some military contracts, some aerospace, aviation contracts on our manufacturing side. And at that time, we were just looking to see what we can do with our particular employees. So again, some employees started working remotely. Many employees moved over to our manufacturing facility where we started actually machining face masks. We were machining face shields. We were doing aerosol cabinets. We even worked on with a particular ventilator project where we actually optimized the materials, the parts, and designs for a FDA approved now ventilator. So I think it was a big shift in the industry about really kind of closing down our NASCAR piece. I think if you look at the EDC, I think they did a tremendous job. Obviously, we participated in the Federal CARES Act to keep everybody employed. But there was a lot of things that EDC did during that time to talk about essential and best practices. So thanks to everybody on the EDC team for that. But again, it was a big shift for us. It was obviously somewhat scary for all of us, a lot of unknown. There was no playbook to go off of. But fortunately, we were able to kind of give back, and we were able to help various types of first responders in the medical field with some of the medical projects that we had going on.
So I've heard from both of you examples of how y'all have pivoted and entered in new lines of businesses that you really may not have even thought about pre-COVID. And so Todd, while we're still with you, a little bit about your workforce. Were you able to retain the same workforce and just kind of maybe change those jobs around a little bit? And after, hopefully, you know, we get a vaccine and maybe get back to some new normal or back to the way we were, do you envision your workforce changing any post-COVID?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think our employees are very talented. And that's why we moved over to really other industries with our advanced CNC manufacturing facilities. So I think our workers have done a great job. Really, our biggest asset of the company is our employees. So they were able to adapt. And, you know, I also like to point out is we've also worked with the EDC Center of looking at tax incentives and also training grants. So during this whole process, we have continued to leverage the town, the community, the EDC to see how we can train these particular individuals and move them into different career paths or different jobs. So right now we have continued to hire students out of Mitchell, out of Universal Technical Institute. So at this point, we still continue to grow our particular organization, but we have been able to leverage all the employees within our workforce, kind of retrain them in some sense, put them in different positions and been able to excel at that.
Perfect, beautiful. And Vienna, what about you and your course? Any changes during COVID and any anticipated post-COVID?
I think we really have had two growth pathways. I anticipate that hand sanitizer is going to continue to be part of our model. We're shifting and adapting as the market shifts and adapts to that, but the demand is still far greater than the current supply, and all of the traditional hand sanitizer suppliers are a year or two out from being able to increase to hit that. People like our product. It's been very well received, and we anticipate continuing to launch a gel hand sanitizer and be a part of that market as well. At the same time, there have been a lot of folks who have been having some time on their hands, working remotely or not working and being at home. And we have had a lot of growth in our contract distilling and co-packaging business with new spirits brands and or existing brands being able to implement growth plans. So not only do we have the hand sanitizer growth, but we also are expanding and currently hiring for our contract distillation, our production team, and our co-packaging team here to grow the core part of the business with our distilling services. So we're looking forward to continuing both. I think one of the key things has just been with having an entrepreneurial spirit of the company, being adaptable, flexible, dynamic, gives you opportunities because you're willing to change.
Yeah, so that dovetails a little bit with my next question, Vienna, and I'll since you've got the ball, I'll go with you still. So both of y'all have done a beautiful job of transitioning and thinking outside of the box, and you know there's no template out there for any of this, and you've done a great job of kind of transitioning and figuring out a way to succeed, but not only succeed but thrive, and they've done very well. So what advice would you give, Vienna, to somebody that may be out there struggling right now and they don't know which avenue to turn to and quite how to think out of the box? Any advice for them?
I think the key was the word that you used early on in the presentation about being disruptive. For us, I think that has been the points of hope in what is a really challenging time for so many people right now, is figuring out, not so much focusing on what we can't do or where the restrictions are, but how can we do things new? How can we do them differently? How can we take a different approach? And by having things be so disruptive in our daily lives right now, it opens up that opportunity to think way outside the box from what we've done before, both personally and with the business.
And Todd, I would pose that same question to you. What have you learned, and what advice would you give to somebody that would be struggling with that? And And what advice would that be?
Yeah, I think, Jim, for us, there's a couple buzzwords we talk about all the time. It's really adapt and overcome, right? So again, everybody's dealing with this COVID-19 a little bit different, but we always challenge ourselves, right? Every day that we go to work, how can we be better at something? How can we be unique? I think the word also we've heard is different. So I think we all have to challenge ourselves is outside the box thinking. We've talked about that, being very creative. But for us, how do we do something better than a competitor? How do we do something unique that's not being done? We've heard the word disruptive. So I think we always continue to think outside the box and how we challenge ourselves to move into different industries that we might have a good skill set and can move quickly and disruptive within those industries.
And so, Todd, was there ever an aha moment that came to you, you know, in your sleep, or while you were singing in the shower? And did the COVID pose maybe that aha moment for you, or were these some things that you were thinking pre-COVID that now that you're in the COVID environment just gave you the opportunity to kind of try those things out and transition in some of these areas?
Yeah, Jim, I think good question. I think our core business is racing engines, but I think COVID really pushed us to move forward pretty quickly as we have been diversifying into other industries. I think it forced us into the medical market. We had always wanted to enter that market, but I think once COVID hit there at the end of March, hey, look, the medical community needed our particular support. So I think that particular transition forced us right into the medical field pretty quickly. So we had to adapt, right, and learn how to maneuver in that market. And the other thing, I think we know that the medical market, right, has different certifications. There's all types of little things. Same thing, I imagine, with the alcohol industry. There's different types of certifications and things that you have to learn. So I think that, again, forced us into that market pretty quickly.
And Vienna, with you, any aha moments that you realized that, hey, we needed to transition and this is the avenue we need to travel?
Well, I think there's two areas. I seem to keep talking about two different, but two areas. One has been really highlighted, as Todd mentioned earlier, by team members, whether it is existing team members, new folks we're recruiting, or folks who are working here on a temp or a contract basis. What each of those individuals brings and the relationships that they bring to the company is a key strength. I mean, all of those people have different aspects that they're bringing that are helping us to grow, and being focused in on that, as well as setting our sights on what we need to attract going forward for our team and our team members, has been an important piece. The other, I think, just as I mentioned earlier, is just having that openness, the opportunity to see what is going to come our way. We've got a very large scale opportunity to be producing barrels of whiskey that I wouldn't have necessarily seen on the horizon, but when that starts to come, others like it start to follow. So being open to things that you may not be expecting, and embracing those when they start to arrive.
Perfect. I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question, so bear with me here. And we're in Iredell County. I'm very prejudiced, but I think Iredell County is the premier county adjacent to Mecklenburg County, and all the advantages that we have here in Iredell County are just enormous. Do you see any, or what advantages do you see? Todd, I'll pose this to you first. What advantages do you see being located here in Iredell County that's helped you in your business and continue to grow?
Jim, I go back to the people. So I think, you know, our particular organization has great people. I think the EDC, the leadership team, the mayor, I think we're surrounding ourselves with the right people for future success. I think that's important. We feel very fortunate to be in this particular area, like you mentioned. And I think that we're reaping benefits now, and I think that'll be beneficial for us as years to come.
It often gets back to the people, and that's you're so right. And Vienna, you being located here in Iredell County, what advantages has that posed for you as well?
There are three that come to mind for me, and I was thinking about this one this morning. Agriculture, key for a distillery. Everything we put into that cooker that we're going to ferment is coming from local farms right here in Iredell County: corn, wheat, rye grain, essential components. And our waste product after distillation, our spent grains, goes right back to those same farmers to fertilize those fields and or to feed different livestock. So that was key for us. Main reason why we located here, in addition to the second one, which is logistics. Being at the intersection of 40 and 77, huge advantage to us in distribution and freight of bringing materials into our facility. Fantastic location. And the third one, I will have to say, you know, Statesville has the long-standing theme line of being the city of progress, but seeing positivity, growth, energy, new development happening. It's not necessarily fast to arrive, but I feel like that new positive growth focus is very important to this community and to keeping all of us moving forward.
Perfect. I will remind our investors that Southern Distilleries is participating in our gift bag, and they're going to have a nice little gift. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you're an investor, get one of these. And so if you're not an investor and you want to be an investor, you need to call our office today, this afternoon. How about that, Jen? Is that a good plug?
That's good.
Okay, let's move in a minute. We have a question that's been posed, and Todd, we've got a question for you from our audience today. And how have you shifted into connecting with your clients in this virtual environment? Any
Yeah, Jim, I think
there?
obviously, yeah, Jim, again, a couple of things. Our business model has changed, and again, the whole market is disruptive. So, you know, for us, part of what we have done is try to create some virtual events. And again, I think at some point, if those would like to go out there and see, and it's on our particular manufacturing page, but we do have a virtual environment setting to really highlight our manufacturing facility. So as I talk about growth in the medical field or talk about growth in the defense market, we'd like to showcase individuals our particular working environment. It's a very clean-based environment. So we have created some virtual experiences where individuals potentially might be able to come and see our facility. No longer can do that because of routine. So not only has it disrupted our business model, but I think from a marketing standpoint, we've had to look at new tools, just like we're on today, to get out and connect with our particular end consumer. We've also shared that, if I can make a plug for Mooresville High School. So for us, we're in manufacturing, CNC machining, and Mooresville High School has also started installing equipment for students to train on. And I think that's great for our particular future. Again, I think we're trying to pull up now the particular site if that works. So, Jim, I think to answer your question, we're all being very creative, using various tools out there to kind of show our particular skill sets, and hopefully that'll pay off for years to come.
Beautiful. Perfect. And Vienna, we have a question posed for you from one of our participants as well. And you mentioned hiring new employees. Has that been more challenging for you during the COVID experience, or is it what challenges has that presented for you?
I would say that our hiring today is not necessarily harder or easier. It is just different. There are folks who have found themselves in a position of job seeking that didn't anticipate being there, and folks who are just thinking of changing what they were doing because things are so up in the air and crazy at the moment for people. So it's been different. Folks that I think we would not have seen as candidates are coming our way. And the market right now, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, is supporting temporary and contract labor because we have folks that are just uncertain and not knowing when they're going to go back to their regular jobs. So that's been great for us to have great people that can come in and can work on that contract basis. So it's different. It's just a different time. I
understand. It's been a different time for all of us in a lot of ways, and I want to thank you, our panelists, for joining us today. I know it's been a little bit different, and we've all had to kind of be creative, and our team, I think, has done a fantastic job of putting all this together. And I want to give a special thank to our panelists for joining us and giving us all some things to think about that we can take away from today's discussions, and possibly some out there learn something and new and implement in their business as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate